she's someone I coached for about a year. And Angie, I think of her as a prisoner of war. By 8 years old, she was very overweight. Her mother took her to Jenny Craig and made her diet, basically. And so really body shamed her, and she ended up hiding out in her pantry and just binging on food. And she just became morbidly obese and just hated herself. You know, she was constantly just humiliated. She had a lack of focus and follow through. She was very sick. In addition to being overweight, she just never felt good. Never wanted to go in public. She had migraines, rosacea, dizziness. She had lots of female issues, polycystic ovarian syndrome, digestive issues, brain fog, and this is what she said. Anxiety and depression literally just ruled her life. So she never wanted to go out of the house. She just became sort of stuck in her very small bubble.
And you coached her on Facebook, right?
I started on Facebook, and then I started talking to her because she actually just got it. She went and got my book, and then she just got it. And how many people through Facebook? I thought, how well is this going to work? She just did everything I said. And so pretty soon I'm like, whoa. She's sending me pictures, and I started talking to her, and then I went and met her in Washington, and because she lives in D.C. So I went and met her, and this is her. So 3 years later, she still looked like that. She lost 103 pounds and kept it off within 14 months. And she just felt completely empowered. But her female issues went away. Highest confidence she ever had. She just felt so good about herself. Clear mind, no migraines. She had control over her moods. She's like, it's not like I never feel anxious or depressed, but I know I'm going to be in control of it. I know I can get my life back. And she just felt very strong and not sick. And one of the things I coached her on was to adopt that metaphor of being a warrior. It's just, I find that so empowering for women. Is to just adopt a metaphor, and if you don't feel strong, adopt a metaphor that helps you to feel strong. And and the best part, she was able to forgive her mother. So they finally had their relationship back.
Because her mother was trying to help her.
Right.
She just didn't have
know how.
the right tools to help her.
Right.
And Angie would hide in the pantry and eat terrible food. But you have to ask yourself, why do you have terrible food in the pantry?
And that's the thing she said. She said, I had no idea what food was doing to me. It was the first time I finally realized it wasn't me. The food was literally hijacking my mind. It was hijacking my taste buds. And she's like, once I finally broke that addiction, I had no idea what food was doing to my life. Like, she's like, now I actually can make conscious choices. I wasn't making conscious choices. So this is an average plate. So I think of our program, it's not paleo, but it's like a modified paleo, because we actually will tailor it to someone's specific brain. If you're anxious or you're more depressed, we don't think the same program works for everybody, because it actually matters. Everything you put on the end of your fork matters for your mood, for your day-to-day decisions. But think of it like a modified paleo. Okay, so 70-30. This is how we do it. 70% high-quality protein, 30% plant-based, and lots of healthy fat in there. We're not anti-grains, but we want to limit grains. I'm not anti-rice or oats. I want to really cut gluten down for most people. It doesn't affect everybody the same way. But for people who are high intensity, some of you are more high intensity than others. Some of you work out harder than others. Some of the police officers that I've coached to get their diet like sort of dialed in, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to add a whole lot more carbs because they're just burning through them and there's no way. They're going to end up being way too underweight, not have enough fuel, not have enough energy. So some of you need more carbs, some of you need less carbs, right? So that's why we modify it that way.
Well, carbs aren't
We're just
bad.
supposed to be smart carbs.
There's a difference between smart carbs and dumb carbs.
Right.
Which we'll
But
talk
if I'm
about.
working with a police officer versus one of our traditional typical patients at the clinics who's really sick, I'm probably going to cut grains out of their diet. I'm going to cut oats and rice out of their diet. I'm probably not going to cut oats and rice out of someone's diet in here, or sweet potatoes or something like that for you guys. So this is Chloe when she was little. And I figure if I can make this simple enough for a kid to understand, then it's easy enough for people to understand. So high quality calories and not too many of them, right? Except in your case, you want to make sure that you're eating enough to fuel your body so that you are not caught off guard if you are working overtime or you have an emergency or whatever happens. You have to have enough fuel.
But a lot of doctors will tell you calories don't matter. They're completely nuts.
Yeah.
They matter, but the quality of your
Matters.
calories actually matters more. So on average, in 1982, Americans drank 225 calories a day. Now, on average, they drink almost 500 calories a day. That difference will put an extra 25 pounds of fat a year
So if you did
on
nothing
your
else.
body. So if you need to lose weight, I want you to count your calories. Just have a sense of it. But if you just stop drinking any calories, you'll begin to lose weight. So I drink virtually no calories because I come from fat people. That I have a brother that's 150 pounds overweight. I have a sister that's the same thing. I'm one of 7.
They're probably watching.
And it doesn't matter. So start counting your calories.
So let me explain why the quality matters more, but it still does matter. And you have to pay attention to how much you're eating, for sure. But why the quality does matter more. So many people, especially when they're busy, they're like, well, I'm going to grab, one of these nutrition bars that's loaded with sugar. But so what? It's under 300 calories, and they're still paying attention to their calories, right? But if you eat, you can go on a Twinkie diet or an Oreo diet. But if you're eating 800 calories of Twinkies and Oreos, and you're like, but I stayed under my calories, you're going to lose weight at first because of the calorie restriction. You're not going to lose weight long term. You're going to kill your metabolism. Yeah, because of low calories, but that's not the main reason. It's because the sugar and the inflammation is going to skyrocket. Now, as you're eating a lot of sugar and the inflammation goes up, you're not only killing your metabolism, but as inflammation goes up, you literally are going to start to gain weight just because of the inflammation. So that's why if you can eat 1,600 calories of a really healthy diet, and you're probably going to lose weight. It might be slower.
But if you eat 4,000 calories
You can't do that.
of a really healthy diet,
Unless
you're
you're
not going to.
Unless you're a CrossFit gamer or whatever, you can do that. So, but do you see the difference? You're going to lose it slower, but the inflammation is going to drop really fast. So the first 2 weeks, you'll lose a lot of weight. So your water, 60% of your, 60% of your brain is fat. 80% of your brain is water. So drink half of your.
So let me just explain that. So if we just took your brain and weighed it, 80% of it would be water.
Right.
Now, if you dehydrate and you take the water
Solid.
out, 60% of what's left is fat. So we'll tell you never to go on a low-fat diet, but hydrating is critically important.
Right, so half of your body weight in ounces, and don't drink your calories. If you did nothing else but cut out the Starbucks drinks and the high sugary drinks, nothing else. I see people smiling. Okay, anyways, that will change your day. That will change your life. So it improves your cognitive function. So this is really interesting. So study done on pilots that were dehydrated, their cognitive function radically decreased when they were 2% dehydrated. 2%. I would argue that you guys need like that cognitive function as much or more.
And
right?
spatial awareness.
And spatial awareness. So, and also they did this study with athletes in the gym. So they actually did weightlifting and they dehydrated weightlifters. They were 19% less powerful. When they gave them their hydration, they were 19% more powerful. They had 19% more power just by being hydrated.
So I've shown you a lot of spec scans over the last months. This is one of the world's most famous bodybuilders. This was Bill Phillips, who wrote Body for Life and started EAS. And he and I did a project together on food. And I would scan them at baseline, and then during a really awful McDonald's meal, and then during a really healthy meal. Well, this was his baseline, which just horrified me. And I'm like, is this cocaine or methamphetamines, or are you a heroin addict? I mean, this is like a drug-affected brain. And he's like, no, I promise, none of that. Well, what I found out the next day, he had purposefully dehydrated himself because he had a photo shoot and he wanted to look ripped. So he had taken 40 milligrams of Lasix. And when he wasn't dehydrated, his brain was fuller, fatter, healthier. So you want to be careful. And what dehydrates you? So yes, I mean, medications like Lasix do it, but also alcohol does it.
Coffee.
Caffeine does it.
Coffee, Coke, these types of things.
Caffeinated coffee.
Yeah. So high quality protein, think of protein like medicine, and how do you take medicine? You don't take it in big doses all at once, you take it in small doses throughout the day. So I'm sure you guys have heard this, but the best way for high-intensity athletes or anyone who has to perform at a high level to eat is small meals throughout the day. So rather than large meals all at once, where you have to expend a lot of energy digesting, so think you don't want to go longer than 3 hours. And I actually so before I came here today, I actually spoke to one of my friends who's a police officer. I have several friends who are police officers, and I have a friend who is LAPD SWAT. He was 18 years on LAPD SWAT, and I'm like, they call him the Boy Scout because he's one of those people who doesn't drink at all. He like follows all, like he just does everything kind of perfectly. And I'm like, I don't expect people to do it perfectly like he does, but I'm like, what do you do? Like, I don't want to walk in there and assume that I know what their lives are like. So what is it that you do and why? And some of the things that he said were very much in line with what we do, but he gave me better insight to what a police officer's life is like. And one of the things that he said that we already recommend is eat every 3 hours, because you never know what's coming next. Like, you don't know if you're going to end up on overtime, or you're going to get a call, or I guess you call it containment or perimeter, so I don't know, something like that. So where you're going to get stuck out somewhere for a long time, right? So that kind of made sense to me. He's like, I need to be fueled all the time because I don't know what's coming next. So that every 3 hours becomes critical. And he's like, I have to be functioning at top level all the time. My brain needs to be like, and I know all of you have different jobs, but I would assume that operating at a high level is probably important in all of your jobs. That would be my assumption. So every 3 hours is really important. And protein, we think of protein like medicine, because it's not only satiating, it's the most satiating of all the macronutrients, so it satisfies you, but it also balances the hormones of metabolism, balances your blood sugar, which when it comes to cognition is the most important thing. So it balances blood sugar, and it just helps you to sort of focus and get through your day.
So let's contrast that with intermittent fasting, because intermittent fasting has actually been shown to mimic calorie restriction. And so that's something I do every day. I eat dinner at 6 or 7, and then I won't eat again until 10 or 11, because when you go a long time, it kicks in some healing mechanisms in your body. You should never do intermittent fasting if you're out on patrol.
Yeah, performance.
You don't know that you're going to get stuck somewhere.
So performance
so
versus
on your
recovery.
days off, intermittent fasting could be fine. But if you're trying to perform, like if one of the Lakers, because I'm like a crazy Laker fan, says, how should I eat? I would never tell them intermittent fasting on the day of a game, because they need to be fueled regularly. So you need to be thinking, when do I need to perform at a high level?
So you always want to be thinking performance food versus recovery food, right? So how many of you do intermittent fasting? Okay, so I would just be thinking, don't do it when you have to do something really important, right? So do it when you're not thinking you have to operate at the highest cognitive level. And same thing with keto. Keto is amazing for some people. It's not amazing for other people. It can make some people really anxious, and for some people it can give them brain fog. So keto is a great plan for a lot of people if you're sick or there's whatever. And some people can focus fine. Not everyone focuses really well on keto. So just know that you may need to add some carbs, smart carbs, if you are needing to really focus. Oh, one thing about protein. So people always ask how much protein. If I'm eating that often, how much protein? You don't need to eat large amounts. We want to eat small amounts throughout the day. I always tell people shake hands with protein. So it's about the size of the palm of your hand. So small amounts throughout the day. You don't need to eat a lot of it, just a little bit to get you through, like every 3 to 4 hours on the protein. But eat every 3 hours.
And we make a really healthy plant-based protein powder that has virtually no sugar.
Yeah, so even if you're vegan, I want you thinking, how many vegans in the room? Okay, so we've got a couple. You still want your protein. So plant-based protein powders, I don't want you to go too crazy with tofu because it's a lot of estrogen, but organic tofu, things like that, but still try to get your protein in there, right?
All right, so the next one is healthy fats. So high quality calories and not too many. Water. And you know, one of the tricks with water, I don't really like drinking water. And so I figured out, I really like sparkling water with just a little bit of chocolate stevia. There's a company called Sweet Leaf. They make like 10 different flavors, but for me, chocolate's the one. And so, you know, I may have 3 bottles a day, along with healthy tea. just to keep myself.
And herbal teas won't dehydrate you, so that will help too.
Okay, so 60% of the solid weight of your brain is fat. If someone calls you a fathead, say thank you. Of course, you want to eliminate bad fats, but really focus on healthy fats, especially those high in omega-3 fatty acids like salmon and avocados, walnuts, green leafy vegetables. These just contain the most medicine of almost all vegetables. You know high cholesterol is not good for you, but most people don't know low cholesterol, under 160, is associated with homicide, suicide, depression, conduct disorder, antisocial personality disorder, and death from all causes. Those of you that are taking statins and your cardiologist who's crazy going, oh, let's get it as low as it can go. I have a brother-in-law who has heart disease, and I love him dearly. And his cardiologist and I have had a number of fights because when he goes under 160, he gets depressed and wants to die. And I'm like, no, don't want it too high, but you damn sure don't want it too low. And so you should measure it. And longevity is actually associated with cholesterol around 225. And so, you know, people are like 210. Oh my God, their cardiologist and family doctor is falling apart, wanting to put you on a drug that will steal your testosterone and your memory, statins. And I'm like, no. Because if your cholesterol is like a little bit high, you want to fractionate your LDL. So you've heard good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, it's complete nonsense. HDL is good, you want that high, but LDL is not bad. You have to fractionate it. Are they the little tiny B particles? We call them demon particles because they burrow and get in your blood vessels and cause plaque to form. Or the big, I have a lot of big fluffy A particles, and they're just not harmful. Yeah. And so I like my cholesterol just above 200 with a good balance. I think my last HDL was like 80, which I was really happy about. So the Mayo Clinic did a study, and they found people who had basically a fat-based diet had 42% less risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. But those who had a protein-based diet, also less risk of Alzheimer's disease. So something like paleo and Atkins, where there's a lot of protein.
And that's how we're recommending.
But watch this. Those who had a simple carbohydrate diet, and I think of this as a standard American diet. Think SAD, standard American diet of bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, fruit juice, and sugar had a 400% increased risk of Alzheimer's disease. It's the sugar. Because this turns to sugar very quickly. Did you know that? Actually, in your mouth, if you chew it long enough, you have an enzyme called amylase, and it breaks down bread to sugar. It's glycemic index. Do all of you know what the glycemic index is? You want to know. So the glycemic index is how quickly does this food turn to sugar in your body. And table sugar is, I think, around 80, where bread, pasta, potatoes, and rice are at 100. And so they turn very quickly to sugar. Your pancreas sees it and goes, oh, gotta go get that, and store it. And so your blood sugar goes up, and then it drops and goes down, which is why sugar cereals in the morning are going to ensure your child gets diagnosed with ADHD, because they have brain fog when they go to school, and the teacher goes, can't concentrate, obviously you should be on Ritalin. And it's like, no, let's do protein in the morning instead.
The only time that's what I was meant, like touching on before, rice can be helpful, or oats, is if you're like if you're a cyclist, or you're like an athlete, or you're whatever, you've got some really big, intense event, then it can be really helpful. Just to, because it is a quick energy, but you don't want it just like all the time, or especially before bed.
But let's not forget this. You want to keep your brain for the rest of your life is fat, protein, kill the sugar.
So smart carbs. Carbs aren't the enemy, you just want smart carbs. So this is my go-to fast food in the morning. I already mentioned that. Throw a scoop of fiber in it, love a little bit of berries, not too much fruit, and plant-based protein powder. So low glycemic, high fiber.
So low glycemic just means the foods don't raise your blood sugar. And on your phone, you can always go glycemic index up. And so
And there's a
virtually
glycemic chart in the
all
cookbook.
meat, virtually all vegetables are low glycemic. Now, fruit, you need to understand which ones are high and which ones are low. Watermelon is really high. Pineapple is really high. So it doesn't mean you never have them, but don't have a lot of them. Blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, all berries are low. Apples are low, oranges are low, lemons are really low. Grapefruit is low, pears, peaches, not too bad. And you want to be thinking 3 times the number of vegetables to fruit.
So I always throw a scoop of kale or spinach or some greens in my smoothie too.
So tell them how you do, like what goes in that?
So there are a bunch of smoothie recipes in the cookbook. So all of you got a cookbook, so there's a whole bunch of
So that's our gift to you for working and protecting us is, this is Tana's best cookbook. I'm really excited about it. And you have like 10 smoothie recipes.
I forget how many in this book, but there's a lot. And so that's what I more or less just told you. So there's a scoop of protein, there's about a half cup of berries, there's greens, if you want to put a scoop of fiber in there. And that is my way to actually start off hydrated in the morning. So I always put at least 2, I like mine watery because I want the extra water. I just want the hydration in the morning.
And we have a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And you also put nut butter in there.
Yeah, so that's to sustain. So for those of you who need to not be hungry right away, you can put a little coconut butter or some almond butter in there, because you don't want to be hungry right away. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the glycemic index. We want you to have carbs. Carbs aren't the enemy, you need them. Just smart ones, not dumb ones. So I think of these mostly as, if they're your staple, they will not be good for you. So those of you who go to flame broiler and yeah, it's healthy for me, and it's 90% rice. So I actually don't mind flame broiler, I'll go there, but I just say brown rice, but put it on the side. So make the veggies and meat, and that's really the staple. And if I want a little bit of brown rice, I'll take like 2 scoops and mix it in.